done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night, cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, cause Whitey's on the moon. Well, I was already giving him 50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. With all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon, how come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my bill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special. To Whitey on the moon.
Use a few words just to get it stacked. Packing in my curves just to ship it back. Tripping off the curb, tell me where it's at. Enunciate my birds, where's my favorite rap? About to cut my hair just to grow it back. We ain't popping over here, we just on the map. Profit off our fear, that's their favorite task. I am not so aware, so I keep the cash. Let me slip past. Find another route, that's to get the gap. Had to throw the cow just to save my ass. Now we on the mouth with our favorite class. If we move it out, we ain't getting past. Now we moving out, now we showing out. Showing all our pain, just to get the clout. Tattoo all our scars, what's the real amount? Looking at my phone, where's my bank account? This ain't my bank account, I ain't the same amount.
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you like the people that are in power. To me, I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, people that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe.
They go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool.
To the pay program, losing all my sense from this broke land. Only feeling good when we hold hands. Maybe we can slow dance to these old jams till our toes cramp. I just wanna eat my pie from old Sam, and we all can. I've been learning from the bottom like the old shit. No light up in my brain, now I'm feeling open. Gotta find my core with a potion. Skin is feeling dry with a lotion. I don't mean to sound rude, I was just hoping. Hope I find a dollar, hope I find a love. Hope I'm just a scholar that's just trying to get above. I ain't living for my buzz, I'm just living for the love. You ain't gotta reach your stars when God is in trust. Keep them with your touch, just in case your pennies got love. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God when time's up, time's up. Brown Buddha on the beat. Check. I used to count dollars for a living. Now I stack records to the ceiling. Dodging all these villains, never catching feelings. Catch me in the wave, best believe I'm chilling. Yo, my father told me better, so I'm never chasing cheddar, never chasing greed. Get up on your knees, I'ma need you to pray better. Think you flying higher than every person at Coachella. Please, could you stop? Every time you spit a line, you be thinking about them profits. Thinking about deposits, forget about the process. Focus on your mind and close both eyelids. Yo, you need to turn the lies and vocalize these potent lies. While you telling lies, selling pies in the skies. You a snake in disguise and I despise it. Hope you drop it. Use your brain, don't you know you got logic? Yeah. Yo, use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Your frontal lobe, don't be dumb.
Use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Swing, diamond blank, pistol swing, gang bang.
I'll be tripping, never winning, always sitting. My ascension just beginning, and I'm feeling independent, yeah. And I'm feeling independent, yeah.
Found myself in a low space, young black man with a court case. Feeling no last is rat race. How put to live in a safe face, but I'm day to day till I fade away, till the pain away, just skate away. Living off 808s, can't really smile, gotta cape my face. Been sad for a while, so on top of my game like a toothpaste. Spin these fine like a toothpaste. Don't sleep on the spot or it's too late. Hard to fade away, left hand with the J. I'ma save the day, maybe paid away.
I'll be tripping, never winning, always sitting. My ascension just beginning, and I'm feeling independent, yeah. And I'm feeling independent, yeah.
Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard, said it's hard, you know. Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard, said it's hard, you know.
Spirit of Marcus Garvey, I feel it so from head to toe, leading and feeding my body. I stick to the code, I never fold, no weapon on earth can harm me. God bless my foes, I'm out of control, teaching this God body. I'm reaching my God body, deeper than Bob Marley, racing with Ricky Bobby. We street tested, then invest in a wide body, no rest. The streets are test, but we risk it and connect with Poppy Divine. But we doing time, cause our lines was moving sloppy. They watch me, they wanna pop me, they watch me, I swear they watch me. I'm Islam mixed with the hustle, I'm Malcolm in a Maserati. I'm chasing elevation, frustrating Illuminati. I'm Huey leading the Panthers with answers, no one can stop me. I broke the code of the Matrix, it's basic, I'm printing copies. I'm repping for Harriet Tubman, she got me, they'll never knock me. And it's, they'll never knock me. I know she got me.
Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard, said it's hard, you know. Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard, said it's hard, you know.
I'm on the middle step on the stairway to heaven. I'm coming as one, but guarded by 11. My whole circle driven, and all of us brethren. We using our visions as tools for manifesting. Manifesting all types of blessings. And I can't say the last time this brother seen a reverend. It's been a while since I sat down on the pew, but I can keep my head down, stay on the grind and pay my dues. Yes, sir. I can spot a mountain, I can climb it too. I can spot a broken bridge and replace the missing screws. See a team of young kings and lace them with some jewels. I can play the game of life, hey, and never really lose. I can pull up in a photo coupe with no fumes. I can live a whole life and never see a tomb. I can find the right wife and forever be a groom. I can plant 1,000,000 seeds and watch 1,000,000 bloom. Stay in tune, stay in tune.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your #1 source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation, the place where stars and minds align.
Peace, you're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Peace, brother. Living, learning, and applying, taking it a day at a time. How about yourself, King?
Hey, man, I'm on the same mission, man. I'm on the same mission. Like I always say, man, just trying to get like my brother over here, man, trying to, you know what I'm saying, trying to map the whole cosmos out of this joint.
Hey, you know, that's the way to be, brother. That's the way to be.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So before we get too far, I want to remind you all, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you can know when we're going live or whatnot. And this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calapusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Big up to y'all. Or whatnot, you know, definitely appreciate y'all and all y'all input and stuff like that. If you're interested in the Patreon, or anything related to Push It Forward Media Group or Push It Forward Podcast Network, you can find us actually at the link right here, tickering across the bottom of the screen if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can follow us at Push It Forward, PUSHITFWD on Instagram. And from there, you can get the link tree. You can connect to all the other podcasts, the Single Dad podcast, the Plant Based with Love podcast, the First We Build podcast, and of course, this podcast, Cosmic Convos. And you can follow this podcast specifically on Instagram at Cosmic Convo. That's COSMICCONVO. And there you can get to everything related to this podcast. Brother Rob, how can the people get in touch with you specifically?
But right now, it's going to be the same old tree. You can hit me up via Facebook or Instagram at Shechem Ra, or you can get at me at calapurusaastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So here we are. We're getting close to the end of season 4. We are at episode 21 of season 4. That will be episode 96. Yeah, episode 96 overall, right? Yeah, episode 96. So Big up to us. Episode 96, getting close to that glorious 100 number. I had somebody tell me early on we started the podcast. They say that, you know, your podcast don't even really start moving until you get 100 episodes. So, you know, we about to be 100 episodes in deep or whatnot. Indeed or whatnot. So definitely big ups to that. And shout out everybody who's out there checking this out live. Big up to y'all. Greetings from Los Angeles here. Greetings to you from Atlanta and Rob from Denver or whatnot. We all over this joint or whatnot. So shout out to everybody in the comment section and, you know, viewing us live and everything, and everybody who's getting this on the playback and on the audio platforms. Definitely want to shout out everybody internationally that's checking out the podcast, from Colombia to Mexico to Australia, India, all throughout the Pacific and different places like that, Korea, Japan or whatnot. So big up to them as well or whatnot. So for this episode, well, last episode, what's the feedback you got on last episode with Israel? I enjoyed that one. What you been hearing about that one, Brother Ra?
It was deep, man. Definitely eye-opening, uncovering the veil of, when you look at a chart as far as a mundane astrology chart, and you kind of wonder what the situation is. My students definitely loved it. I got some good feedback from a lot of other people. So, I enjoy doing it. So, there's definitely going to be more to come just like that. So stay tuned.
Indeed. And I got a lot of good feedback from that. And you know, these shows, these mundane astrology shows, I know they're going to be late bloomers, right? They're going to be late bloomers because, you know, people get, introed into astrology every day, right? People get interested, they catch the bug
and they're gonna be searching this stuff, and then they're gonna come across it. Like I said last episode, I've altered this particular YouTube channel to be able to be the place for the Push It Forward podcast network or whatnot. So this is being dedicated to just the podcast that we all have going on and stuff like that. And I've grouped the different episodes to where it's easy to find. So there's a playlist on here for mundane astrology, right? So all the countries we covered, they're on there. There's a playlist for all the ages that we've been going through or whatnot. Big ups to that. That's another late bloomer. I know people gonna love that when they discover it, because everybody's always talking about some, we're in the Aquarian age and all this stuff like that. And, none of them ever give an actual clear answer of how you find the age of Aquarius. At least I don't hear it, from the Western astrology perspective. They got, what was that one song from Fifth Dimension? Age of Aquarius.
Yeah. Right.
They're on the song talking gibberish, right? It's like when when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars and peace. What are they talking about?
Yeah,
right.
I've heard that. Yeah,
it's a very popular song. I think it was from the Hair. What I think it was from Hair or whatnot. Those
you got to be a little old school to get that one, but yeah.
It was old when I watched it for the first time, but I wasn't born in the 60s, so I didn't catch it when it was fresh or whatnot. But
it was old when we was born, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But all this confusion out there, so that's how I know people are gonna come across this stuff. They're gonna be like, "Yo, where's this been my whole life?" So definitely, I can definitely see why people say that 100 episodes. It's like your foundation, and then from there you'll really start seeing it, grow. So definitely, I want to drop a bomb for all of y'all for checking us out and supporting us and putting us in a position to be able to keep doing this. So, man, big ups to y'all. All right. So enough with all that. Let's talk about today's episode. We actually called it Audible, right? We had we had something else planned, and then we thought about it or whatnot and talked about it a little bit, and ended up landing on this. And when you search it on the internet, this particular person doesn't have a solid time, but man, he gave us a gift or whatnot. And I'm gonna play that gift real quick, just the audio portion of it, just to see, because finding these times for people and stuff like that can be, or for countries, for anything, could be a wild goose chase. I mean, like, I'm searching for a time from one particular country, and I got all these articles and different things like that, and you have to really sometimes dig and find it. But for somebody to come through and drop this like that, this is just like, I don't know, it's like divine intervention or something like that, So I'm gonna play this clip real quick, just the audio, because I ain't trying to get flagged.
Why would anyone care what their favorite comedian thinks after they saw a police officer kneel on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? I can't get that number out of my head because it was my time of birth on my birth certificate. I was born at 8:46 in the morning, and they killed this nigga in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I watch everything everybody says. I think Candace Owens tried to convince white America. Don't worry about it. He's a criminal anyway. I don't give a fuck what.
All right. Right. So that clip right there, I mean, Ra, you tell me, how many times have you ever come across somebody dropping a time of birth like that when it's in question?
Never. Never. I've never heard that before. Right. That's amazing. That's just that's given to us on a silver platter.
Right.
That's amazing, man. That is dope.
So, I know everyone can pretty much, he has a very distinguishable voice, right? Very, 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 very popular comedian. I'll even go and say legendary or whatnot. So we're doing the good brother who's in, I don't know if he's in hot water or not. He's in some, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold water. He's in a funny place. People are, doing some things to him right now, but we're covering the brother Dave Chapelle. So big up to him. Right? And we're gonna get into why. I labeled it like this. Why is Dave Chappelle's a troublemaker? You look at his chart, you'll see exactly why. So Rob, man,
see why.
what we got, man? What we got going on?
So the classic, and it's amazing how the consistency, and I mean when we pulled it up, because honestly, folks, we just got this time, right? I mean, my my G over here, he talking about he want to be like me. I want to be like him because he's a very keen and aware person. So he tied in on it because I saw that comedy special before, and it never dawned on me, you know what I mean, to tie it in. But lo and behold, we have it. And the one thing that I can say is honestly, this science is amazing. I mean, I never get tired of it. It's endless as far as its gifts, and it's bountiful as far as abilities. So there's a consistency that you're going to see when you begin to study these things on a deep level, in that most of the time you're going to find two planetary influences, sometimes three, but two primary planetary influences with regards to comedy.
Right.
First and foremost, Mercury. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway, right? Mercury is a telltale comedian, right? This is telltale sign of someone that is funny, humorous, witty, sharp, right? Makes connections to things that we don't necessarily see right off. So, Mercury is one of the foundational pieces of a comedian, and also the gift of gab, right? The ability to speak, to have the comfortability to articulate oneself's inner thoughts in public. That's Mercury all the way. That is, I would say, the number one planet that we would always look to give us an indicator of comedy. The other one is Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is a planet that definitely is humorous. It's jovial. It's upbeat, and the comedians that I'm speaking of, obviously, of Dave Chappelle, right?
Right.
Master comedian, right? But there's two others, right? And ones that you necessarily wouldn't know, but Red Fox, right, which is a master comedian, right? OG, triple OG,
Blessings to him.
right?
Oh yeah.
Comedian,
Oh yeah.
right? Yep, right. Um, and funny enough, right? Funny enough, he and Dave have the same ascendant.
Mm.
The other one is Richard Pryor, right?
Yeah, we did
Rich
him.
is also right. They all three of these men are going down in history as classic, um, you know, uh, high level comedians. And
Indeed.
Richard Pryor he's Pisces ascendant, right? Pisces ascendant. So Jupiter ruling Pisces, Mercury ruling these two fellas, right? This is a telltale to find if you're seeing someone that's up and coming, to find that kind of lockdown specific information about if this person is gonna make it in this industry. And there's different combinations, as we all know, right? There's endless ways that we can look at it, but for the most part, the ascendant is always the focal point of any chart that we can see specifically if this individual is built for this, right?
Right.
And they are, right? They are. It's funny, just as a sidebar before we get into Dave, you look at Red Fox's chart, you see he's got three planets in Scorpio in the third house, right? And, um, before he really got into the TV and movie kind of flow of things, his was on records, right? You had to kind of, be, in the loop, and his comedy was really that dirty where, It was literally it was kind of like down under, right? It was underground, right?
Right.
And that's the scorpion energy, which is underground. It's raw, is nasty, it's something that you can't say in public, but let alone when you hear it, it grabs you, it controls you, and it pulls you in. So it's interesting to find that these variances, right, on each one of these of their skills, right, you can see kind of the specific area that they come from. But definitely Mercury and Jupiter are the telltale signs. And let's kind of talk about our partner player here, Dave Chappelle, that really has kind of held the ground and held his own in this particular industry. So,
Indeed. Let's.
um, you know, let's see what we got here with your partner. So, as you can see, right, he's Virgo ascendant, and Virgo, you know, they have a real way of saying something that is almost, his comedy really points to a lot of the issues, right? It points to a lot of the issues. That's what comedy really what it is, right? It kind of pokes fun, right? It makes fun of the things that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis, the pains that we deal with, right? The challenges, the issues that come up in our lives. They make light of it. They make it to where, we can look at it from a very um, a, a more lighthearted and comical purview. So, Virgo is a sign that is very, very sharp, right? Very
Right.
smart, very, intellectually viable. And he is, right? We were just talking about, and I go back in my mind, like, when did I first hear this guy? Because he's just, I mean, he came on the scene almost like as if he had been here the whole time. I don't know. Did you get that feel with him? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he came in as like, you know, like he's been here, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting, right? Um, his degree is Uttara Falguni. Well, it's 4 degrees, 19 minutes, right? Which is Uttara Falguni. And Uttara Falguni is governed by the principle called Aryaman, right? Aryaman actually is one of the is the deity of the nakshatra for Uttara Falguni. And Aryaman actually has a knack, right, for leadership, believe it or not, right?
Shout out to the
And
Falguni.
his comedy has a kind of edge to it. Uttara Falguni, yeah, Uttara
Yeah.
Falguni has that because that's at that 4 degrees, right? He
Mm-hmm.
has leadership, but his comedy is leading edge. In other words,
Right.
it's right at the level where the common theme of the day that we're dealing with is what he hits. His shows, his stand-ups, his movies, all of them are right and exact with what we're dealing with in the current day and age. And it's interesting because leadership qualities you would think is someone being standing out there as, staunch and um, you know, not very funny, but in all reality, right? Because of the Virgo side of it, and it's two sides. You have a Leo side and you have a Virgo side, but the Virgo side gives him, right, that kind of instant rapport with the crowd, right? If you're a leader and you're taking somebody someplace, you're taking the crowd someplace, you're moving the crowd, you're shaking the crowd. Uttara Falguni has a knack to do that because it's subtly ruled by the sun, right? And that sun power, right, is star power, right? It's leadership ability, it's ability to shine in darkness. So, it makes sense for him to fit right in there. Hasta doesn't really have it can have some of those abilities, but it makes sense for him to be Uttar Falguni. I wouldn't see him as Shitra, which is a nakshatra that's at the end of Virgo. I wouldn't see
Right.
him as Hasta. Uttar Falguni makes perfect sense,
It,
right?
it, it seems Hasta.
Um,
to me, it's kind of more. I mean, you know how some people like to, kind of put Virgo in the realm of almost like a nun type figure or something like that. In certain instances, I've heard people try to make those correlations. I don't see it with all of it, but definitely with Hasta seems to be more of a reserved, type of Virgo versus, some of the other expressions of it or whatnot. It's like a more, it's a different type of energy or whatnot with that Hasta.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hasta is more hands. It's oriented around the hands, more internalized, more sensitive, right? Um, Less bodacious, right? But again, it depends on a lot of other placements. But Dave just fits very well in the Uttara Falguni kind of category.
Right.
So interestingly enough, right? He has Venus in the ascendant, right? And Venus definitely, for all intents and purposes, really makes you. It kind of makes you. I don't want to say overcompensate in certain areas, but it does give you the knack to really hone in on things that are you can make something that is ugly beautiful, right? You can take something that is seemingly not attractive and make it attractive, right? That's what a debilitated Venus can do. So trust me, right? I mean, think about the topics that he talks about. Again, these are things that are not, comfortable, but he makes them comfortable. He makes you comfortable with it, and it's because of his ability to go in and pull out the beauty in the hideousness of our lives, right? As far as the things that we don't want to necessarily say, you know what, that's funny, but it is funny, right?
Right.
Because the ability to do that is talent, skill, right? Um, you know, Venus rules the second house, right? Of speech, right? And he's not afraid to talk, right? He's not afraid to speak, so
Wow.
it also rules the ninth house of knowledge. So thinking about it from a Virgoan perspective, the second and ninth house for Virgo makes sense for their speech to bring some type of knowledge or some type of awareness, right? And he represents that. He embodies that, you know. Definitely one that you can see in the ascendant, his construction, his makeup. The other thing though is that this guy has, if you count, right, and check it out, right, he's got Venus he's Virgo ascendant, so that's one mercurial effect, right?
Right.
He's got Venus there, which is two mercurial effects. He's got Moon in Gemini. He's got Saturn in Gemini, right? These are all mercurial powers. These are powers. These are abilities. These are skills. These are talents,
Right.
right? So 4 planets, right? I want to say 3 plus the ascendant, which ascendant is considered like an effect or planetary influence, right? That's 4 powers of Mercury at his disposal, right? So the guy is loaded down with it. I mean, I'm sure endlessly he could just come up with things off the top of his head. You just imagine sitting there talking to him. He's just actually a funny guy, right? He's not trying to be funny. He's funny. He's naturally that.
Right. I mean,
It
even
doesn't take much to sit. I mean, if we sit there, go ahead.
From that clip that I'll play from that special, you can tell really, he had like a little notebook out and he just kind of had a couple little things jotted down, but he was just talking. He kept saying like, "Yo, this is not funny," and they're like, "Well, just anything that comes from you is always a little funny, no matter how serious you are. There's always a just a little a humor spin to it, even if he's not even trying to do it. He just kind of oozes it in a different type of way. There's some people that's like, I think Mike Epps kind of has that, but comes from a different place. But like, what Dave Chappelle is just always a humor of intellectual kind of heady humor, always tied into whenever he's speaking. I've never heard him and not wanted to kind of laugh a little bit. you know?
No, I mean, yeah, Mike Epps, he has some of that knack and ability, but Mike Epps sometimes kind of is over, like
Yeah.
he's doing something to be funny, whereas
Right.
Dave, he just is just there, right? He's
Right.
just naturally that way, right? And think about it, the moon, which is his mental and emotional composition, is in Gemini. So he's got Virgo ascendant and moon in Gemini. That is crazy, right? That is mad crazy. That means that man has the mindset to constantly go back and forth and see the contradictions in reality, and literally that Virgo is like poking fun. Remember, the Virgo symbol is literally it's poking inward. It's an internalized sign. So he's got the internal side, which is Virgo, and he has the external side, which is Gemini. Both of them at his disposal, right?
I don't know if you're going to
So,
mention this. I don't know if you're going to mention this as well, but he also has that exchange
well, oh,
between
but
moon.
I was saying that's the four, right? I was going to
Yeah.
add the cherry on top, right?
Yeah.
Which is the exchange. So it's almost that because Mercury. Wait, actually, it's really six if you want to get technical, right?
Right.
Because Mercury is in Cancer, right? And Moon is in Gemini. So the Moon rules Cancer, Mercury rules Gemini. They're in each other's signs, so that creates an exchange, which the technical term is a Parvatana yoga, right? Then Mercury is in Ashlesha, which is the nakshatra ruled by Mercury. So there's another mercurial influence even inside where Mercury is placed in and of itself. And
Right.
again, Mercury, right? Mercury is placed, right? Right inside that Navamsha in a in Pisces, which is a Jupiter ruled sign. More comedy,
Right.
right? It's in a Pisces ruled Navamsha, excuse me, right? It's in a Pisces ruled Navamsha, right? So in that Pisces Navamsha, it's more comedy. So he's loaded down with comical abilities. If you even look in the Navamsha in the D9, the moon is with Mercury.
Right.
That's crazy, right? The guy is born to do comedy. People say there's no such thing as destiny. Well, everything that we show you so far in this particular podcast begs to differ, right? This man is born to be funny. So,
Right.
and think about it. Mercury, right, is the mouthpiece. It is the gift of gab itself. It's in Ashlesha. Ashlesha is a very cunning sign. It's cunning, right? It's intense. It thinks in a very deep and a very um, emotionally driven way. So his comedy reaches in and pulls it out of you, right? Ashlesha is ruled by Shesha or Sarpa. It's really Sarpa, which is the serpent, right? And Sarpa is the energy that it constricts, it holds. So imagine you're laughing, right? And when he makes you laugh, it's almost like I got to get a grasp for air. That's the squeezing of the comedy that he has, that the hold that he has on you when he does what he does, right? I mean, in the audience, right? We were just watching a little clip. They were cracking up, and he wasn't even saying nothing, right? He was just barely talking, right?
Right.
So, that hold on you from a mercurial standpoint from his mouthpiece is also that level of ability that Dave brings, right? Phenomenal man, phenomenal man. A lot of respect for him too because he holds his own. right? He doesn't try to be like someone else. He doesn't try to emulate anyone else. He doesn't try to do other people's comedy. You know how some people try to do like other people's comedy, like you kind of like, that's a little Richard Pryor. I mean, not to say that he couldn't, and not to say that he may not have even done a few things, but he just is Dave. He's naturally himself, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, nobody sounds like Dave
it's
Chappelle.
no,
Or he doesn't sound like
he's his
anybody
own
else at
brand.
all. Right.
No, he's his own brand. He's when you say Dave Chappelle, right? There's a litany of things that you can think of when it comes to Dave Chappelle, right?
Right.
The DVD, right? And they're class. You know, when you're a great, when you're a legend, you know, you watch Richard Pryor. It's still funny today, right? You listen to Red Fox. You watch, you know, even this old Sanford and Son shows, right? That's why they're in syndication, because they're classic, because they stick with us through thick and thin, through time immemorial.
Here comes
Right.
the big one. I
Right.
think this is the big one.
Right, exactly. When you say that, right, we know exactly who you're talking about, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We know exactly who you're talking about, right? When you do, like, you know, when you start to do it like this, right? Like, you know what I
holding
mean?
his chest, he like,
You know exactly who it is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed.
Right. So you know that's the power of these individuals. You know, we take it lightly, but these are powers. These are abilities. These are the netaru flowing through. These are the forces of nature flowing through man, right? And being able to show you that the supreme being has a funny side to it. It's a comical side to it, right?
Right.
The other thing is that when I mentioned there's a third planet, and it's one that you don't necessarily think of as comical, right? And it took me a long time to find out why. But actually, K2 is comical, right? You know, K2 comes from a place that's down deep within, and it brings something out that you and I wouldn't expect. It's shocking, in other words, right? You know, you're
Right.
saying something that is unprecedented, unexpected, you're not prepared for it. That's what K2's powers can also bring. It can bring something that can literally, right, remove your thinking and bring you into the inner core of your being to feel and intuit what is going on as far as what's being said. And comedy is that power, right?
Right.
It is that power to get into. It gets beyond, you know, the think about it, racism, think about classism, sexism, all the isms, and that's actually why he's under fire right now, because he breaks those barriers, right? He breaks those barriers. And I see you talking about aspects, right? Aspects are not so important in this particular matter, because in reality, right, these are placements that are set that give him these abilities, right? Um, Aspects aren't necessarily important because, again, most of these planets only aspect the seventh house from themselves anyway. Mercury, Moon, right? Right? They don't. Venus, all three of them only aspect one house away from themselves. So this is really more about the placements that are producing this. Right.
Right.
Um,
You know, speaking
Jupiter
of, I
does
mean, 'cause,
aspect the ascendant.
yeah.
Absolutely. Right. It's there. Good.
What I was about to say is that,
It's
you
there.
know, I mean,
Right. But even without an aspect, right? If
Yeah.
Jupiter was in the sixth house.
Yeah, because you know, Western astrology is aspect heaven. I mean, not aspect heaven, but aspect, you know, crazy, right? So, as far as just the emphasis, but I mean, again, I hate to always be the guy that always bring this up. You know, you plug this chart in, this time in tropical, changes everything. Pretty much all of these planets move.
It does.
Except for, yeah, even the ascendant, I
It
believe,
does.
move.
And I know it does. Everything changes, right?
Yep.
Everything changes. It puts it at late degrees.
It
Because
might be still
24
in
plus 4
Virgo.
is
Might
28,
still,
right?
yeah. So it
It will
probably
still
still
be in
instead
Virgo,
stay
right?
right
But
at the end.
planets are going to move. Things are going to
Mm-hmm.
change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to change, right? Except the ascendant for the most part. But here, because I see my sister asking, right? I'm going to throw you a cookie, right? So you can find out a little bit more about your just. And since you have so many questions, sis, why don't you come on back to class? Then you might really have some deeper insights into these things. So shout out to you, right? But in this particular right, in this particular system, you also have what are called sign aspects,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sign aspects. So here's one for you, right? So cardinal signs aspect fixed signs except the one next to it, right? Fixed signs aspect cardinal signs except the one next to it. But mutable signs only aspect
Themselves. Oh, he
themselves.
frozen.
Saturn, right, is aspecting the ascendant. The ascendant is aspecting Moon and Saturn as well. Rahu is aspecting them as well. So all of them are actually aspecting. So you do have some aspects which are not normally computed or not normally stated in right the Jyotish vernacular, but that is actually a Vimshatar, not Vimshatara, but a Parashara Horashastra lesson that we go through, right? That those aspects are very real. So
Very,
there's
very.
one for you. Right?
I pulled it up here because it's there. That aspect, those aspects are heavily used in Gemini.
Gemini, yes,
Mm-hmm.
they are. Right. But Parshar does mention them in his particular, right, in his works. Right. Parshar
Indeed.
Horashastra. Right. So as you can see, right, as I just stated, all signs dual are aspecting them. Right. So there you go, Awani, right? There is your aspect answer to your as answer to your aspect question. But even without the aspects, in the traditional sense, with planetary aspects, specific aspects from planets, right? Think about it from this perspective, right? Those planets without the aspects reside in specific zones, right? Cosmic energy envelopes that produce, right? This type of individual. And like I said, that's really, I'm gonna even throw it out there, 5 mercurial planetary influences in a chart. That's really almost pretty rare, right? Right. It's pretty rare. So this man, right, like I said, is a gift from the heavens so that we in this day and age could have our own Richard Pryor, our own at our age, right? Someone that could carry the torch as far as the ability to laugh, the ability to make us right reach inside and bring out that which is uncomfortable and make it comfortable, right? Make it so that we can look at it from a different perspective, right? So let's talk about a little bit deeper here. You know, we always talk about the dashas, right? And I think that's pretty pertinent to this individual because we're going to see. And even before we get there, I want to mention something else, right? I want to mention something else. So, um, the nakshatras that he has where they're placed, it's just very interesting because he's got 2 planets, of course, 3 planetary influences because K2 is also one as well. But they're all 3 of them are in Ardra. What do you think about that, brother? That's interesting. That's interesting.
It's like
Right.
it's like the creator was like, okay, how much more of a comedian and wild card can we make this guy right here? Let's just line all these joints up together and boom.
Man, man, a wild card, right? I mean, the guy, Ardra is look. When you start studying this stuff and really get into the nakshatras and their influences, because they really are kind of the keys behind each of the signs. Ardra is no joke. Ardra is it's raw, right? It's raw. It's raw. It's real. It's uncut, as they say, right? Right. It's gonna
Right.
get as raw as you can handle it. Not Red Fox raw, because that was a different age, a different era, a different person, and his raw comes from a different energy altogether. But Dave Chappelle's energy is literally is uncut, right? He's gonna tell you what it is, and he's not gonna filter it, right? He's not going to tailor it, right? He's gonna say it, and
Right.
you can change the channel, you can turn him off, right? You don't have to watch, but he's gonna say some things that might make a lot of people uncomfortable. That is Ardra, right? The symbol for Ardra is a tear. Tear is in hurt, but also when you're done with him, it's a tear of laughter, right? You know what I mean? You're laughing so hard, he makes you cry. Right? That's Ardra, right? Intense, driven, relentless, even courageous. The Rudras are there. One of the themes or um, devas or netters, not I say netters or nettaru, but one of the kind of titles that Ardra have is a Rudra, and Rudra works for Shiva. It's an emissary. It's an aspect of Shiva. Shiva is the so-called right god of death. Right. That's a serious energy. Its symbol is also a diamond, right? And diamonds are created under what? Immense pressure.
Pressure. Heavy pressure.
Right? Heavy pressure. That's pressure. Think about it. You think he's going through some pressure right now. And he's standing just the same.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
Not
like it to
shook at
him.
all. Right? Hey,
Right.
take it or what?
Or leave it. I'm cool.
Didn't seem like he's worried at all. Been down this road before, right?
Oh yeah.
So, it's hard. It's hardened to a degree. It's tough. Those are 3 planets in Ardra. That's serious. That's no joke. Right? I just would like to be in his company and just enjoy his energy for a day. Just an hour, right? Just to hear what he would have to say, just having dinner at a restaurant or, sitting, at a specific spot watching, just the comical commentary, I'm sure, right, is raw and real and it stays there. It is who he is. He's not putting on airs, he's not masking things. And Ardra never does. Right? They don't. I have met many people with strong planetary, major planetary placements, ascendant moon, sun, ascendant lord, and so forth. Right? They all have that edge. They just don't care. Right? So just interesting things that you pull out of a chart right off the cuff, just noticing things, just seeing things, right? And then to add insult to injury, the planet that rules Ardra is Rahu. It's in the 4th house. Right? The 4th house of that which gives you satiation. And and Rahu, one of the other themes that Ardra brings, it's a rebel. Right? It's rebellious. Right? Doesn't care. It's gonna push the envelope. This is Dave Chapelle, right? Bar none. So, do you have anything to say about Ardra, King?
Well, no, I mean, you pretty much said it all. I mean, but I know a lot of, people with some heavy Ardra, influences and, Very very interesting people. Some people may, and I'm not saying it, I don't mean this in a actual mental health diagnosis perspective, but a lot of times, a lot of people may refer to these people as crazy, right? Is that person? That person is crazy. You never know what you.
Hey, I'm serious. You're right on the money.
Right.
It can be one of those energies, areas of the zodiac that can literally cause you to be a little off.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: to do comedy in front of thousands, I mean, of people, now millions, of course, because of his status and his comical prowess.
Yeah, you
You
gotta be a
have to
little.
be a little special. Yeah, you got
Right.
something got to be a little to the left, right? Or a little to the right, right? It's got to
What
be there.
one of our teacher, one of our teachers, he always he makes a comment that when you're talented, you want to be talented, or you want that energy to be extreme, just to right at the point before you're crazy, right before crazy.
Well, genius
Just
and crazy is usually
right on
borderline.
the edge of crazy and
Yeah,
genius.
yeah. Genius is usually borderline crazy.
Right,
That is a reality,
right,
right? It's true, folks, right? There's some truth. There's some very real truth to that, right? It's a thin line, right? And he walks that razor's edge, right? I
People thought he
mean,
jumped over the edge for a second, right?
well, I mean, considering right what we're about to talk about here in these dashes, it makes sense, right? It really
Right,
does make sense. Watch what we
right,
talk about, right? So, and he's got K2 with the moon. Come on now, K2 with the moon already can set you a little, you know, and then Saturn's there with it, which is also serious but yet detached, right? That's a lot. So Dave fits right into where he fits right into his niche, right into I mean, his calling card is one that when you say his name, right, it brings an immediate thought of something that's funny or something that he might have said or done that you've watched or seen.
right,
So you know, look at what he's born into, right? I mean, if you check the Vimshatari Dasha, right before or right after he's born, right when he's born into a Rahu Dasha, right? The very end of it, very last uh, portion of that Rahu Dasha, he's there,
right.
right? So, and what I teach in my classes is that when you look at a Dasha, when you look at life, you know, life is kind of like you know, it's what was planted first, what the seed of your existence is, and what your seed, let's say, what the seed of your seed of your birth. I'm not gonna say incarnation, right? The seed of your reintroduction into this plane is just like anything else. When that seed is planted, it grows, right, around and from that seed and sprouts out into the rest of your life through the other dasha sequences. But Rahu is the beginning, right? So it's interesting, right, to see how he would have started in a dasha that rules all three of those planets in Ardra.
Right.
Very interesting, right? Um, because if you look at his moon, it's 19 degrees 1 minute. 1 degree over, he's touching on a new nakshatra. So he only has a sliver of Rahu left when he's born. Just a sliver. But that sliver is enough to set the scene, to set the jump off, right? To put things in motion, to touch, as they say, the butterfly effect, right?
Right. And he's born in a Rahu moon dasha.
Immediately after, yeah, he is actually. You're right. It that's ins- Thank you for pointing that out, brother. Thank you for that. That you couldn't got any better than that. Rahu moon, right? So the moon, which is in the nakshatra of Rahu, and he's born in a Rahu moon dasha. So he's already born, right? To set the stage for right that rebellious mind,
Right.
that thinking outside of or around the box type thinking, right? That's the jump off. His brain, right, was formulated and modulated. His nervous system, his whole body was formulated to do that
Right.
from birth. So, this is the power of this system. It is literally gifted to for you can so you can see what someone is here to do, right? Um and funny thing is, here's another one before I forget, before I do it slips the old noggin here. What is his Atma Karaka, if you can see?
It is
Right. His
Mercury.
Atma Karaka.
Mercury.
That's another mercurial influence, right? Now we're looking at 6 to 7 different mercurial influences on this guy, right? Right. His soul is here to unburden, or to not only unburden, but to gift, because a gift is also a what?
Curse.
It's usually tied with a curse, some challenge that it's brought with, right? So that you can learn certain lessons, and that mouthpiece can get you in a whole lot of trouble. That's why it's an excellent way for us to look at it, right? Is he right? What's the theme of the show? Is he a troublemaker?
Right.
Right. Instigator, right? Mercury is the instigator, right? You remember you was a kid, right? And the guy was over there talking mess, like he was instigating, like, yeah, he says such and such about you, right? I'm sure that's how these people that are having these issues with him feel,
Right.
right? He's poking fun at me, right? You remember the funny guy in class, and we all got lit up by somebody that was, just playing the dozens, right? Dropping them
Right.
like they hot, right? If you grow up in the inner city, somebody made fun of you somewhere in class at some point through, all the way up to 12th grade, and even maybe beyond, right?
Right.
That's just the guy that does that. That's Mercury's power. This is who he is, right? So not only that, right? He enters into, well, to sidebar, right? And you got to think about childhood. You got to think about how things are. Jupiter is the childhood that he experiences, because it runs immediately after birth from 1974, right? All the way up until what, right around 1990, right? It runs till 1990. So from his perspective, right? Jupiter's in the fifth house. It's debilitated. And think about it from this perspective. Jupiter being debilitated, that Jupiter aspects Mercury, doesn't it? So
Yep.
there's another aspect for you, Queen, that you were asking about, right? Jupiter and Mercury produce a direct aspect to each other, right? So when he was growing up, even though he was in a Jupiter dasha, right, he was still receiving that mercurial influence throughout life. It's never stopped. That's why he can be so natural with it, like it just rolls out of his tongue, right? He's not even thinking about it. He's like, it's just in him. Jupiter
Right.
still had the effects of Mercury throughout his childhood because of the aspect, because of the opposition. And to balance that, mercurial and Jupiter and mercurial type differential throughout childhood, right? I'm sure he was the class clown. or somebody that was in there, right? Definitely having fun with that mercurial power. You know, Jupiter is the power of is knowledge, right? It is debilitated. It is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we won't get into the cancellations and all that because that would take us on another tangent. But again, its debilitation can be used, right, to show how life, albeit may not be so uppity, happy, go lucky with the Jupiterian debilitation, but that negative becomes a what?
Positive.
Becomes a positive,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, you know, again, just to show how that works, right? Um, the other thing is that um, during that Jupiter Dasha, right, during his childhood, through his up to almost very young adult or very early, actually teenage years, immediately after, right, it's almost like, you know, something's holding back. The planet that rules the Jupiter debilitation is Saturn, right? It rules it. And it's almost like Saturn is waiting. You know, it's like, yeah, you're going to go through some of this stuff in childhood. But when you come to me, when you come to the planet that rules that Jupiter, let's see what happens, right? Look, in 1990, he enters into Saturn Dasha. This literally, and take for example, he's only 17 years old. He enters into comedy right at that very age at 17, 1990. I mean, think about the courage and the audacity, right? That someone has to have to enter into the comedy realm, not acting, right? Not music, not sports, not medicine, not education, comedy. Comedy is hard, folks. It is hard. It is not easy, right? He in fact he got booed, right? According to Wiki, right?
Hmm.
First time out, a couple times, didn't start off so well, right? But immediately after, in the same Dasha and Dasha Bhukti from Saturn, right? He started blowing up. That is when I heard of Dave Chappelle. He was on Def Comedy Jam during the Saturn Dasha. Saturn, and here's the funny thing: people say Saturn doesn't give you things. Really, it's in the 10th house of profession. It's in the sign of Gemini, right?
It's natural home.
It's natural. It's natural home, which gives it Dick Bala, which is directional strength. So that means it can take him places.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Dick Bala means. It takes you places, right? Directions, gives you direction, says this is the way to go. And not only does it say this is the way to go, it takes you, it gives you a path, right? So, bar none, right? Saturn Dasha is the major. I mean, from a nobody to a somebody, and I'm not going to say it would, since it was overnight in a way. See, Saturn is supposed to be slow, but what sign is it in? It's in Gemini,
Gemini.
which is what? It's quick.
It's quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. Mercury is just another name for Quicksilver, right? It's quick, and he's quick with it, right? He's not dull. He's not slow. He's not right buffoonish, right? He's very quick.
Right.
You have to be in comedy. Think about a heckler. Think about somebody that's in the crowd, and they're oh da, 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 right? Because he even played that role, right, in one of the
Yeah.
movies with Eddie Murphy, right, where he had to deal with it. Remember, right?
Yeah.
He became heckled, right? But nonetheless, that's how comedy is. You have to literally be quick-witted, right? So Saturn does give you things. Saturn does aid you and provide immense high levels of stardom, fame, and money. See?
Yeah, it was a
Right.
nutty professor. That's right. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Right. So you see what I mean? Like Saturn Dasha gave him this. I mean, the whole of Saturn Dasha produced Dave Chappelle.
Right.
I mean, the list of this man's his resume, right? The resume. I mean, being in Nutty Professor, being on Def Comedy Jam, having your own show, the Dave. I mean, named after you. That's all Saturn Dasha, right? All of it. All of it. Starring in Pineapple Express. I mean, the man, he was for all intents and purposes, a rising star without even, I want to say effort, but it was like the right place at the what?
At the right time.
Right time. That's what destiny is. Yeah.
Right.
And his Atma Karaka, right, is Mercury, which rules Saturn. So it takes him as an individual to give him the lessons of reaching heights, which rules the 10th house. This is how we begin to map destiny, how we chart what people's lives bring, what people's lives hold. Right? Saturn Mercury, look at that, 1993, blows up, even more. Saturn K2, nothing can stop him through this role. And Saturn K2 is a rough period, folks. For many people, most people, it is not easy greasy. Saturn K2 was a breeze to him, right? From our perspective, at least, maybe he was feeling some of those things that Saturn K2 would bring. But Saturn K2, they're conjunct in the chart. In Ardra, mind you, which is the antithesis, right? Rahu is the antithesis of K2, so they're both right in a very peculiar place. But nonetheless, he doesn't skip a beat. Not a beat. Not a slip until, right? Until. And this is the thing. Life has its way of showing you certain things. And the famous thing, and what most of us really, as black men and black people and people of color, respect Dave Chapelle for, is standing his ground, right? Holding his own. And the sun in Leo, right? And he is a true sun in Leo, right? In Magha, the king, right? He didn't budge. He didn't give in. He didn't yield to the temptation of the powers that be, right? The infamous dress, right? The infamous put it on, Dave. And here's the crazy thing. If you understand the spiritual side of the planets, there's a mundane side, and the mundane side has a different kind of numerological, coincidental way of looking at it. But the spiritual side of it, the number of Mercury is what, my brother?
3.
When they asked him to put on the dress, 3 people came to him, right? 3.
I mean,
3, right?
They got the clip queued up.
I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see.
My bad. It's the clip, but I didn't mean to play it right there. Yeah. Want me to play it?
It's all good, right? Like I said. Yeah, go ahead, play it.
That they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career. I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers got to wear a dress. That's happened to me.
I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. It's the writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on. And, what? A prostitute? Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave, listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. You know, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then, like, the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh, gosh, this guy's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. Guy comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. Hot damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a sting.
There it is, right? See, the Atma Karaka gives you your soul's lessons, right? It says, hey, you got to learn to master this. And it's interesting that the number 3, which is what Mercury is connected to, he passed the test, right? Mercury rules his career. It rules him. Think about it. They probably would have put him on a higher pedestal. Of course, you have to take him down because that's what they usually do if you don't cooperate, as we see, right? But the thing is that he passed the test, right? He learned the lesson that, look, certain things aren't necessary to be funny, to be yourself, to be a leader, to be someone of influence, of impact, right? It's not necessary. Certain things just don't go, right? And when you do them, you sell your what?
Soul.
The soul, which is the Karaka indicator.
Yeah.
Right? Deep stuff, right?
Right.
So, Saturn, Rahu, and there's Rahu, good old Rahu. Rahu said, look, right? And I'm sorry, he really said, look, that's it. I'm pulling back. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to go inward to kind of, assess what this whole thing is. Because you got to consider, and here's the thing, just as a sidebar, right? Martin Lawrence is also pretty funny. And I didn't even know that was a movie because the movie that he was in with Martin Lawrence, I remember him being in that movie, right? I remember that. I remember the scene and all of that. So I kind of almost know which one they're talking about. But nonetheless, Martin is not even relevant like he used to be. And guess what? Martin wore the what?
He wore the dress. He did. Yeah.
See? I'm just saying, like, you got to look at things from a spiritual side. Comedy All the things that we talk about have these spiritual connotations behind the scene. That's why you can't get this in any other podcast, folks. This is a one of a kind podcast. Like my man said, when we really begin to have more momentum, these are classics, right? Because you can see things from a deeper, uh, more insightful perspective, right? Martin wore the dress. Where's Martin now? Right? That's to say Martin is not still funny, not at all. But I really don't see anything that Martin is producing. Stand up, movies. I think he tried to do Martin the show again. That fell apart. So they use you.
Well, they had Bad
You
Boys,
can
which
be
is recent.
used and then shoot up and then move on out. Martin's
Mm-hmm.
show was classic. It's still classic. I still can watch Martin's show and get a laugh. But
Yeah,
Dave is still what? He's still relevant
right.
because he didn't sell his soul. So Saturn Rahu comes, right? And Saturn Rahu is one of the most treacherous challenges. If you're not prepared mentally and spiritually, then you're going to have a challenge in that period. And the task came, right? Rahu is in the fourth house. He said literally, I'm out of here. And Dave Chappelle disappeared.
Legit.
It it's wisdom to a degree. Saturn does rule wisdom, folks. It does. Through experience though, right? Through understanding, through having to go through something what we call life lessons, right? That's what Saturn is. And Rahu is there to say, guess what, buddy? I got something to offer you. Rahu is temptation. Rahu is the ability to expand oneself, and literally, Rahu is the. It's also akin to the cuckoo bird, right? And most people don't know the cuckoo bird is infamous for taking something of someone else's, another creature's nest, and putting its eggs in it. So it's almost like taking over or trying to leapfrog or trying to put yourself on another level without paying your what?
Your dudes.
Paying your due. It's literally at that point in which he disappeared. And there was always jokes. Where is Dave Chappelle? Is he in Africa? Is he he was actually at home. And where is Rahu placed?
At the in fourth house.
Right?
At the
In the
crib.
fourth house of home. Family, right? This stuff this is what it is. Thank you, Dave Chappelle, for giving us 8 hour at the 8th hour 46 minutes. That was a gift, right? Because this is what it produced. This is the chart. He told you his time, which he said was on his birth certificate. So
Right.
this is an AA rating, right? In the grand scheme of things, right?
Right.
Straight up. After Saturn Rahu, Dave Chappelle's gone. Saturn Jupiter comes, right? Gone. I think he made a few here and there's, right? But nothing of significance nor any profound, you know, nothing. He doesn't resurface until 2013. That's when he comes back. But guess what? No one's even actually he's almost like a war hero to some degree, in a comical way, right? He's a war hero. He went and did battle and took the consequence, took the blow, and said, "Look, I'll sit down for a minute, but I ain't wearing the dress."
Mhm.
And comes back in a Mercury Venus Dasha. Venus is in the ascendant, it rules the second and ninth, and Venus is a very powerful planet for Virgo ascendants. It is actually, even though it's debilitated in the ascendant, is one of the best planets for Virgo ascendants. Oddly enough, see, life has quirks. It's strange. It's not a straight shot because a planet that can be debilitated in the ascendant becomes your best planet. So it
I
teaches
think
Virgos a very profound lesson about the falsehoods of beauty.
Warren Buffett has a similar little thing going on.
I think we do.
But he's
Warren?
not
I think
he's not Virgo ascendant. We did do more.
but he did Venus debilitated though.
Yeah,
Yes,
Venus.
absolutely. I know that for sure.
He worked with it. Yeah.
Right. Right. The beauty, right? The attraction. Virgo learns because they're inspective by nature. They like to inspect. They like to pick things apart. They like to pull things to where, you know what, this ain't all what it is cracked up to be. So because Venus and Mercury, Venus, and literally Mercury is his is his Atma Karaka. So he comes back when the soul is ready has regenerated, when the soul has learned its ultimate lesson, right? Even in that right, all that glitters isn't what?
Gold.
Isn't gold. Right? So you can see full well, right? He's in a Mercury Dasha right now, right? He's having a very successful run again. He's out there. His name is relevant, be it bad or positive or negative, whatever your take is on it, right? He's still relevant. Martin, what happened to you, bro? Where you at? Right?
I noticed something.
So,
just thinking about it, like he has these moments where he kind of like slow builds up, and then he kicks off with something that's like big, right? Like during the time and after he has a nodal return, because that happened twice.
Right.
Or whatnot.
Right.
Right around, because around 2001, this was here, right? And then shortly after that, boom, Chappelle show, right? Then around 2018, 2019, we were here again. 2020, we were right here again, right? And then that's right around the time when he comes, when he's where you're at now. He's coming back, but the Netflix specials start exploding, after that, around during and after that period,
right,
or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, Rahu and Ketu can take you to the heights of heaven and the depths of hell. Right.
Right.
They can. Right. It's all how things are based in your destiny, in your situation. So, it's interesting. He's in a Mercury Dasha. He's riding it out until 2020, 2026. And he's gonna stay relevant, right? He's gonna be in the limelight until that time is up, right? K2 is always a planet that is very interesting to see how people handle that 7-year period. Because if you think Rahu's rough, right? See, think about the logic of the ancestors of people engineered this system. We talk about Rahu, 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 and having a Rahu T-shirt, right? But Rahu is 18 years long, folks. There's no way that 18 years of life can just be that bad, right? It's not really. Rahu actually gives you what you want. It gives you your heart's desire. But what's the old adage? Be careful of what you want.
Wish for.
Be careful of what you wish for, because you will get it. Right? Rahu says up, you want a divorce? You got it. Rahu says up, you want a wife? You got it. Up, you want to sell drugs? You got it. It does. Rahu gives you what you want. It doesn't stop you. It's there to exercise those demons within you. They call it the shadow, right? To bring that shadow out of you so that you can look at it and examine it. That's what Rahu does. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
It's not Rahu's not. None of them are bad. None of them. Right. But it does give you the opportunity for 18 years to learn the parts of yourself that what you would consider is maybe, right, unsavory or even that which you would consider to be ultimately rewarding. But
Right.
again, everything comes in twos, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So Rahu is 18 years. Ketu is 7 years. Now I want you folks to think about that for a second. 18 to 7. Which one do you think is more intense? Right? The 7 year bid. So K2 is coming up. It's in his 10th house, right? He might disappear again. We might not see Dave for at least another few. It might. I mean, this is what happens. K2 can call you to the, not in the sense of inner planes in the physical, because it can do that too. But K2 can also say, you know what, I'll give up. I'm done. I'm over it. I've had enough. I got it. Right. Thank you, but no thank you. That's what K2 can do. And if we've seen Dave already in a Rahu subdasha, right, pull away, then K2 very well might be the point in which we say, you know, not farewell, but see it another day and time.
He might do it too. He
This
might
is
do it
just some things
himself.
that you can surmise, especially with Saturn and with Moon.
You hear me?
Yeah.
He might just do it.
He,
It
I mean,
might
he
not.
might be at the point where
Just
he's full.
yeah. He's yeah.
No, he's full. You're full. You've run your Atma Karaka Dasha at the height of life. You know, he's at the right age, the right point. He might just say, I'm done. I've made enough money. I can retire. My name is out there. You can go watch my stuff, right? I see you when I see you,
Right.
right? So, interesting enough, right? There's some things we might see. He's in a Mercury Rahu Dasha now, and like I said, Rahu always gives you those things that you necessarily will call forth out of your being, and he's in that period to show, right, that here we go again. Isn't it interesting? Saturn Rahu, he's like, I'm done. Now he's in a Mercury Rahu, and look, they're messing with him again. I mean, they're on him again to get some kind of, you know, whatever it is that the powers or beings or groups are seeking. Not to say whatever they're seeking is this or that, but this is the layout of his spiritual land, of the spiritual landscape.
Right.
So, right, just interesting enough though, the comedy special was released October 5th. Let's see if something would be impacting him personally to show that this is also in transit, not just in the dasha, but in the scheme of the planets as they move in the cosmos. Can we look at the transit for just a brief moment on that date? See what happens.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir. So look at the date, right? October 5th is when it was released, and like we were talking about earlier, Tef, we don't know when it was done, right? We really don't know, right? The actual date, because it was pre-recorded, right? It wasn't live,
Right.
but it was released October 5th, right? Isn't that interesting? Mercury is in the ascendant. See, this is how it works, folks. This is when you begin to separate and stop and think for a second that people, because people ask the cliché question, don't you believe in God? And I tell them, I wish I had the luxury to believe. That's a luxury for me, right? I know the supreme being, because certain things are outside of your what?
Control.
Control. And those things are outside of control. Something's moving them, something's actuating them. Well, take a look. Mercury is in the ascendant, people. Mercury is right there as himself facilitating the karma, right? Sun is in the ascendant. Moon is in the ascendant. And the moon is the fastest moving planet. So for
That's
it to
crazy.
be there on the day of, amazing. That's crazy. It takes 13, literally, it takes 1 day for it to move one nakshatra, 2.25 days to move through a sign, or 2.25 days to move through a sign. So for it to be there, and what's the degree that moon is at? 2 degrees. So for them to release that on that day, it was destined for this, for that influx to happen to us as a world, as a planet, to receive this as his particular gift to the world, and for the ridicule to follow it.
Right.
Mars is in the ascendant. Mars is in a sixth, eighth position from his natal Mars, which means, hey, there's time for another. Guess what?
Squabble.
It's a fight.
Yeah.
It's a squabble. It's a contention, right? There's an undertow trying to grab you and pull you in. This is destiny, folks, at its finest, or the reading of it at its finest, right? You look at Rahu, it's in the ninth house. He's in a Mercury Rahu Dasha. Ninth house is also, as we know, or people say guru, but the guru is only emissary. It's only a representative of what? Of the supreme being,
Right.
right? These planets are conjuncting his ascendant and Venus, which rules the ninth house. So this is destiny playing out. And I know he's a hot topic. Check it out, right? It's a back and forth battle. It's a battle. It's like, hey, you're gonna take him off or you're gonna keep him on. You're gonna keep him on, take him on. It's interesting because the people that actually were there that went into the meeting, they were fired. They weren't even supposed to be in the meeting.
Right.
They bum rushed the meeting to find out what was going on and to make a statement on behalf of these groups, right? Of the groups, respectively, the groups, to make their statement or to plead their case against having this aired on Netflix. So, albeit, right, we can see these things are real, right? And guess where Jupiter is? It's a Jupiter return in the
Right.
fifth house with Saturn, right? And Jupiter is in direct, and Miss Awani, there's your aspect again. What degree is Jupiter?
28. 28.
What degree is Mercury?
27.
28.
Close enough.
In that entry. Well, 27,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Close enough, right? Isn't that interesting?
Right.
So, right, this is what it is, folks, right? And I want to say,
Jupiter had
if
to.
Dave,
Jupiter
if you
had
ever
to.
check this out,
Jupiter had to back up to get to that. Get to that spot on that day. You know.
straight up, yeah,
It doesn't. You
yeah.
know.
And it stops retrograding the that that next on the 11th. It literally changes back direction, so it goes over, right, that point.
2
Or a little,
degrees.
it comes very
A
close
little.
to
A
it, rather.
little.
Not
A
over,
little
but
bit.
very
You
comes
know.
very close.
Yeah.
A little less than 2 degrees, yeah.
Then goes
One
back.
degree, right?
Right.
Destiny is real.
Right.
And here's the thing. So another lesson, right? Jupiter is a planet that is called a Badaka planet, which rules for all for all mutable ascendants, right? The seventh house is a Badaka. It's a planet that creates obstruction. So the planet that governs or rules that house is also a Badaka planet, and it's a planet of obstruction. So literally, at that point, something is trying to obstruct him. Something or someone, rather. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's
right?
deep.
So go figure, right? Go figure, right? Right.
Indeed.
So, this was just something we had to bring to the people, right? We had to give it to you, right? Because Dave is, right, one of our classic black comedians, right? He's a classic comedian, period, but happened to be with the complexion for the connection, right? So, big ups to Dave, right? Big ups to him and his family. Definitely, we're gonna be looking for, continued great things, right, from Dave, because he is one of the greats that we have at our disposal at this day and time. So we had to bring it to you, folks. We appreciate you watching, and those that will tune in at a later date. Definitely, let us know what you think. Let us know what you perceive and how you've filter this information into your spirit. And if there's some things that you want to share with us, drop us a line. Let us know in the comments. We definitely appreciate you watching and tuning in.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe, to this channel. Go subscribe to Brother Rod's channel, Calipurusha. You can get to it here, or you could just type it in and search it and find it there or whatnot, and make sure, classes, all that stuff like that, share it with your people, and, support those outlets as well or whatnot, because, like I said, so we already know what's governing the podcast and everything like that. So we already know how the cycles kind of roll and stuff like that. So, you guys are getting it first. You can, catch it and be like, yeah, I've been on that. You just finding that out, man. That episode's 3 years old, man. What you talking about, right? So indeed, man, we definitely appreciate all y'all. Whatnot. Indeed, indeed. But, with that being said, this episode is brought to you by Push Forward Media Group, Calipurusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to everybody there or whatnot. And this has been another great episode. And, we'll be back next week around the same time, same day, with another good episode for you or whatnot. So you guys be safe out there, and we're out. Peace.